Hey yo, how's it going? Welcome back. Today we have a really packed video. Got a lot of information. We're going to try to dial it down a notch and keep it real chill and make sure that people can really absorb this information so they don't get left behind or lost. We recently have been dealing with a lot of expectations for XRP, and first, before we go any further, I want to make it clear that not only am I not a financial advisor, but also the expectations for any of these coins to go anywhere is still in the unknown. No one really knows. Even if the technology looks strong and if the partnerships look absolute, there are still no certainties in crypto, and I would encourage you to always do your own research and never invest any more than you could afford to lose. Thinking that a coin's going to go from the 50 cents it is now to the 20K that I predicted, likely 20K, if it ever even did happen, would be a long time away. How would that happen? How would XRP ever hit 20K? Here's a simpler breakdown for XRP 20K. Here we go. Roll the intro. Now, this is what got me excited about first breaking down a few myths about cryptocurrencies in general. We'll look at some myths about market cap. We're going to look at some expectations for prices ahead and what we can think XRP is going to actually provide to the world. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. First up, we have the Ripple CEO compares company's XRP ownership to Saudi Arabia's oil. This article really got me thinking and actually is the reason that we made this entire video. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said he believes that Ripple's XRP token is not a security at the CB Insight Future of FinTech conference. He also argued three arguments in his case. We've already gone over a lot of this. We know it's open sourced and decentralized. We know that you can buy XRP and you're not buying shares of Ripple. And we know that Ripple Labs would go down and XRP would keep functioning. He thinks that their ownership of XRP doesn't give them control because it's an open source, decentralized technology. Saudi Arabia owns a lot of oil, but it doesn't give them control of oil. And here it got me thinking about oil in general and how we could apply XRP and most cryptocurrencies to the future oil of the internet. XRP is possibly one of the oils of the future internet of value everyone keeps talking about. But what is oil cost right now? If we're going to look at XRP and possibly other cryptocurrencies as the oil of the future internet of value, this brings up the question of what has happened with oil since its creation or discovery and its use and integration into society. This brings us to the volatile history of crude oil markets. We can see that progression onward. We can see the cost of a barrel of oil goes from its low cost of $1.17 up to easily being $12 in 1973 to $35 per barrel in 1981, and then all the way up to it reaching $150 per barrel at its record high in 2008. In this simple event timeline, we can see that the rise and fall of the price of oil can give us a glimpse into the possible future of XRP and the other oils of the internet of value, which we call cryptocurrencies. Now, currency or a store of value or credit is easily something that we can see having a tumultuous, volatile history, even though it might be highly used and highly adopted and very integral into society. You can see even the price of oil rose and fell drastically during its lifetime, bringing it now in 2018 back to about the price that we paid for it in 1980, near $40 a barrel right now, even though it did hold its all-time high price of $148 a barrel in 2008. And what does this mean for cryptocurrencies and XRP, ushering in an internet of value with blockchain technology. So here we're going to look at what potentially that means, and then we'll go back to the price. In the simplest terms, blockchain transfers value from one party to another over the internet. That could be money, a share of a stock, a property, or a digital royalty, or even a vote cast in an election. Now we can see the power of blockchain technology is basically going to be utilized in many different ways. What we also need to consider now, and we've referenced it in our live streams, if you haven't seen them, be sure to tune in and check them out. We have the idea that we're entering into what we consider the industrial Internet of Things. We had the Industrial Revolution, and we had the Technological Revolution, and now we're combining them both into the Industrial Internet of Things. What that means is that we'll be bringing trillions of sensors online, machines with machine learning, factories working on a code, literally working from a code, being paid from blockchain and hyperledger microtransactions. So what does this mean looking forward?
I don't even know what that means.
So now you might start to ask yourself, what does that mean for XRP being an oil of the internet? How does that affect the price? And how does that affect people around the world looking for utility and looking for possibly the true saving graces of the humanistic side of blockchain, which is the bringing currency back to the people? And we can start to look at what this means by visualizing the global millionaire population. By going and looking at the world map right here, we can see most of the millionaires in the world population are very much centralized into these big hubs of the world. Now, what blockchain and XRP forming the Internet Value of Things and the Industrial Internet of Things revolution means is that the tokenization economy. Imagine you are a millionaire in Vancouver and you hear about emerging projects in the middle of Costa Rica, and you decide to invest this type of possibility for microtransactions and micro investments into the industrial expansion and adoption is what will allow and dissemination of value, basically creating value, creating possibilities for underprivileged people around the world, and also creating possibilities for people such as you and I to take part in investment strategies that we would never be able to take part in, because we can purchase micro portions of starting companies, or micro portions of land, micro portions of ideas and communities and establishments and industries that we want to see perpetuated into the future, giving us basically staggering numbers of voting rights in the concept of how to choose to use our dollars. Now, looking at what this basically means, how many XRP are there? Though there's going to be 100 billion XRP total, there's only 40 billion in circulation right now. So people are often saying, well, XRP has 61% of their tokens being held by Ripple Labs. So what does that mean for their escrow release phase for the next 10 years? I think that that's not something we should worry about. What I looked up next after realizing, talking about XRP being one of the possible oils of the internet of the future, or possibly the one true interoperable neutral oil for all the other cryptos and fiats to function on top of, looking at this idea brought me back to the crude oil prices in the 70-year chart. We can see, looking at it just inside this chart, how we hit a huge ride. Even in 80s, there was a huge price jump and then a die off before another price jump. When I looked at this other long history of oil prices, this history places one of the first price spikes all the way back at the early 1800s, and it's not mentioned in any other chart. This initial peak that happened as price per barrel first became discovered, as oil was becoming discovered, hit this huge shoot and run, and then look at the drop after. In fact, this looks a lot like our run in December, January, and then the long and slow adoption phase for it to finally become integrated into society. This whole time we're seeing a a phase 4 of our investment cycle, where we're looking at the decline of the market until we finally hit the phase 1 and phase 2 for return on investment. And again, this is obviously going to be much quicker, looking at the establishment of Internet of Things taking only years compared to the infrastructure to create roads and highways to build all these cities taking 50 years. But that also begs the question, when you look back, well, XRP has 100 billion tokens, and that made me think, how much oil have we used ever? How much oil have we used? What's the history of how much oil we've used? And so I went and looked that up, and I looked up how much oil have we used, and this approximation, you can go through and look at the math. They think approximate production rate, etc. They used, you know, all the depletion rates, and they come to the conclusion, an approximate figure of 1 trillion barrels of crude oil, or 944 billion barrels, since commercial drilling began. So 1 trillion barrels of crude oil, that's 1 trillion barrels of crude oil, which is about, if I'm correct, as 100 billion XRP. 1 trillion is 10 times how many XRP there are. So although it might seem ludicrous to make this direct comparison, obviously this is not in any way correlated to the value of XRP, but with over 1 trillion barrels of oil used to power it's this oil for the integral structure of society that we were using for the last 100 years, and now looking at the future oil, XRP and other cryptocurrencies for the internet and store of value of things looking forward. What does that mean if we take away the idea that, well, we don't even have 1 trillion XRP? So what does that do to XRP if we don't have 1 trillion? You know, there's only 100 billion XRP at oil's all-time high. It reached $147, and we were just literally pumping that stuff out of the earth. There was nothing but just our ability to pump it out of the earth. We're saying that XRP, this big open neutral ledger, basically provides the ability for people to build consumer and business facing applications on top of it. This internet store of value will be interconnected through not only you and I using it, but also this huge industrial Internet of Things. Basically, imagine a warehouse building cars, no one's in it. All the transactions and expenditures no accountant needs to take care of, because it's all done by a code. And what store of value are they going to use? This is the idea, is that XRP has created this huge interoperable neutral ledger for transactions to transact inside of and on top of. So even if they do use Bitcoin or Litecoin or Cardano or Stellar, the possibility for them to use XRP as an intermediary, even just to transfer between funds, is very strong. But this begs the question, what does volume do for XRP? So I looked that up. I thought, what does trading volume do for a stock? Cryptocurrencies and stocks are not the same, but the average trading volume typically decreases when a stock's in a downtrend, and it usually is coupled with an increase in volume when a price increases. But this is not a guarantee. What you often find is you can pay attention to volume when you have a transition or a change, but if you have a steadily set high volume, that doesn't affect the price at all. So although the SBI launch in a month initially will spur a price increase in XRP, its consistency in a higher volume will not continually rise the price. What it will actually do is stabilize the price. Looking at this other article talking about how trading volume affects stock price, talks actually about how a higher volume inside of a certain stock gives it a greater sense of stability. Imagine less volume creates higher volatility when you have big trades happening. So what does this mean? It means that possibly a higher increase in volume is what we're waiting for before institutional investors move in. Once volume increases and stabilizes, there's a higher increase in stability, less volatility inside the market when people make positions and move. So although the volume can increase price initially, volume does not necessarily continually increase price. In fact, a lot of banks are talking about only using XRP as an intermediary, transitioning between funds, only holding XRP for a few seconds, and this in itself, if stabilized inside of a certain volume parameter, would not affect price over time. So what would that mean, and what would you need for XRP to see and have a huge price increase like the one we've suggested? Asking ourselves how we can achieve a higher price inside XRP really boils down to a simple question of what's more valuable to the token. Do we need to bring on 4 billion unbanked people as a store of value, or do we need one person with $4 billion to move into the market? Now here we can see the top 50 billionaires by industry and how much money they potentially hold. We know that the richest 1% own 50% of the world's wealth, meaning that the implications of just one extremely wealthy person seeing the potential of moving into cryptocurrency and seeing the potential of the Internet of Value and the XRP ledger as the oil of the Internet of Value would be astronomically greater than any other partnership or deal we could ever see happen. And the repercussions of that would be astronomical the moment that person decided to move in. What also we can see is potentially the 5 biggest market risk that billionaires are hedging against. A good example is the idea that they're afraid of these changing economies and the changing of the times. As soon as people realize the potential of these infrastructural protocol tokens, you can easily see their 5 risks are no longer risks at all. Looking at 1, the return of inflation. So threats like the return of inflation are no longer even possible with the creation of cryptocurrencies. You would no longer need to worry about that. Record high debt, also something we could alleviate easily with the creation of these tokenizations of nation state fiats. Looking at bond market worries, obviously the bond market's falling drastically because it's not relevant or modernization inside of fiats, and tokenization inside securities is relevant to the bond market as well. Looking at geopolitical black swans, like the geopolitical issues happening around the world, the international use of an open neutral ledger as a store of value and the adoption for people to invest in third world countries or failing economies and collapsing governments around the world would be incentivization enough for embarkment onto a better and brighter future. And overzealous central banks looking to collect hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars in total QE, quantitative easing, and you can see all these are alleviated and no longer a risk once the adoption of cryptocurrencies heads into way. So how much money would we need to see a $20,000 XRP? And here we can see the idea of market cap is actually misleading. So we're going to break down market cap one more time quickly to understand how much money would actually need to go into XRP to see trillions of dollars in market cap. And the difference between inflow and market cap and how it relates to tethers.
You didn't know? Well, now you do. I don't like it spicy.
Now, we've already covered tethers, so we're just going to talk about how market cap and inflow are a little bit different. Looking at this, often one thing that happens in crypto forums is the idea that market cap is an exact amount of money invested into a coin. And we've covered this before. If you need to go into this in greater detail, because this article simplifies it and we will cover it very simply, there's another video I have called Market Cap Explained that goes into great detail about why market cap is a coded store of value and how it works on the greater fool theory, why that's okay, and what that means for the first time we have a true currency looking forward. But looking at this, let's say, here's the idea for how to understand potentially why you don't need however many trillions of dollars specifically to go into XRP to reach a $20,000 XRP. Let's give an example. Say there's an island that has 5 homes on it. If I land on the island and buy 3 of the homes for $200,000 each, now there's 2 remaining homes, and the homeowners decide to list their homes for sale at $200,000 as well, because that's the market price. The market cap for the island real estate is now $1 million. There's 5 homes at $200,000 each. However, the amount of money was actually not invested. Only $600,000 was actually invested, and the $600,000 is considered the inflow, and the $1 million is considered the market cap. So how does this relate to crypto? Not all coins in circulation were actually purchased at the current price. And in fact, many coins were not purchased at all due to pre-mining and other things. So the market cap is often much, much higher than the actual money invested into the market. So how much was actually invested in the crypto market? Well, according to the research that JP and Morgan did, when the market cap was around 300 billion for crypto, the net inflow was only around 6 billion. Meaning that it means only $6 billion was actually invested, not 300 billion. But the reason why is because a lot of those tokens were given away in airdrops, or they were pre-mined, or they were mined, traditionally mined like Bitcoin, back when they were only a penny or even less. So what does this mean now for the crypto market looking forward?
Okay. Yeah, no, I have the memo. I've got it.
But people have said before, if only one person pays 20K for a Bitcoin tomorrow, that could support the market going to 20K per Bitcoin. The same idea could happen for XRP. If one person buys an XRP for $1,000, that supports and projects the market cap of XRP at $1,000 per token, even if that purchase was never made. What that means is that every purchase before that would likely have been $999, $999.99, $980, and all the integers up before $1,000. The final person to purchase at $1,000 is only purchasing $1,000 because it's supported by the current market evaluation. Now here you can see why and how, if XRP is integrated into the Internet of Value of Things as a transaction payment layer for millions of sensors and trillions of dollars to move through it, it'd be easy to see one person purchasing one XRP for $20,000. For $1,000, for $5,000, for $10,000, people have made $10,000 predictions, and the XRP ledger is outperforming the other technology it's competing against. It stands to be highly adopted and highly used, and looking at XRP as the oil of the Internet of Things means to me that we are likely looking at a very strong run. And here I am breaking down and showing why XRP at 20K is not ludicrous, and the cash flow that you would see go into Ripple would not be actually equal to however many trillions of dollars it took for it to get to 20K. It would just take the trillions of dollars it needs to manifest up into the market. So basically, billion. So we're going to close look potentially combining all these industrial and Internet of Things together in this huge world network creates a potential value for not only us, but also people who don't even have a store of value, for people who are looking to invest in expanding and developing businesses or countries, or launching and helping support industrial internet innovation at its finest on other sides of the world, even if you can't commit more than $1, allowing you to purchase micro portions of innovation in a sense, spurring technology, spurring adoption, and spurring equality, and for people to have control over their currency. Anyone can code on top of XRP, anyone can use the ledger for whatever humanitarian or philanthropic idea they have. So this gets us really excited. I do want you to be informed though, and be aware of the potential of owning oil before the world knew what oil was. Here we are looking at, is XRP the oil of the future? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out this video. As always, let me know what you think. Is XRP going to hit $100? Someone said $589 at the end of the year. Someone also said potentially $1,000 inside the next 2 years. 20K, when would that happen? It would probably be at least over 10 years from now, but let me know what you think. As always, click that subscribe button, click that like button, give me a thumbs up, show your support, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers, have a great day. Until then.
brought to you by Critique